Hey,
Hello
I
there.
don't know if that's working. I can never figure out in Facebook if it's working or not. Hello, Sabrina. The YouTube's dead easy. You go to YouTube and you look, and it's just there. Whereas you go to Facebook, because it's in a group, and there's lots of posts in our group. Facebook doesn't push stuff to the top; it just randomly throws them in. So I've never got a clue whether it's going live in Facebook or not. But it never fails to go live, so I should probably just relax and assume that it's actually working, because I'm sure it is. How are you doing, Sabrina? Week 4.
Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Have you had a good week since we last spoke? Have you managed to do lots of things, not necessarily to do with this? How's it going in the Ukraine?
It's going very well. We have like open water swimming season started last weekend, and now we have races like every weekend from now. So I feel really happy about this. I'm kind of craving for some parties and people and everything.
Are you kind of into swimming? Is swimming a thing?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, that'd be nice then. I mean, I don't know what the situation is in the UK. I think the swimming pools are still shut. Mostly it's indoor swimming here because the sea is too cold. It may not be the case where you are. I'm sure you've got a nice warm sea, but where we are, it's really freezing. So nobody goes swimming in the sea, regardless. So all the pools, but I don't think they've opened yet. But the pubs opened this week in the UK.
Oh, that's a nice alternative.
Yeah. I'm not sure how busy it was. There was a lot of people saying they simply wouldn't go because they were kind of thinking, it's a bit of a dangerous thing. Cameron, that's the nicest thing anybody said to me all day. That's really nice. This is my favourite part of the day. Thank you. That's really kind. We've made some developments this week, shall we say? We're going to stick on a particular topic for the next couple of weeks. Do you want to just recap, Sabrina, why we're here? We're on part 4, but what's the point? What are we doing over these 10, 12 weeks, whatever it turns out to be?
So the idea is to make. I have a plugin, and Nathan has a plugin that he helps to promote as well. And we are hoping desperately to grow both of these plugins to some nice numbers. As my plugin has a free version, I'm hoping to grow it from 0, which is now not the case because it has 100 installs, to 10,000 installs. At some point, I won't be setting any time limits, and we're trying to learn how to do this and to share in this show and to get some advice from community. My plugin measures site speed, and Nathan's plugin it's for A/B testing to provide options on the website, and that's what we are doing here.
Yeah, so the idea is that we're not trying to speak from a place of experience. It's quite the opposite. It's kind of figuring out things as we go. And so over the last few weeks, we spent week 1 just kind of talking about what the purpose of this was all about. And then we spent a little bit of time planning out kind of like user personas and thinking about how we might gather feedback. And so on. And then today, probably for this week and next week, because you think that this might stretch over a couple of weeks, because it is a big one. And it's actually I think this is a really difficult one to do because it's a little bit uninteresting, possibly. To actually do it is documentation. So that's what we're going to focus on this week. But before we do that, we have to do our homework, because we set some homework to each other at the end. And I've tried mine, but I think I've failed.
No, that's all right.
Okay, good. That's good. Shall I go first with my homework, and then maybe is that all right?
Each week we are discussing some topic, and then we give ourselves a homework to do, practically. So it won't be just discussing or just like theory, but we are trying to do something for our actual plugins. And for today, your homework was to make a roadmap, right?
Yeah. So the idea was Sabrina showed off a blank. No, she didn't. She showed off a kind of completed version of a roadmap. So she sent me during the week the the template for it, and I filled it in as best as I could. I took the approach that I was only going to fill in, well, probably best if I just share the screen. That's going to be a whole lot easier. That's not it. That's something for maybe a little bit later. So this is Sabrina's. Do you know, it just strikes me, Sabrina, we should make these available because they're easy to copy, aren't they, on Google Docs?
It's by Jonathan World.
Yeah.
Website. Yeah.
I mean, it's not difficult to copy, is it? But just having it available as a link. Anyway, the point was that I was to fill out this. And it's the A/B split testing roadmap. So insert plugin of your choice, depending on what it is that you're doing. And then at the top here, you were supposed to write a little bit about what the plugin does and, you know, solidify those ideas. And you know what? The more that I ponder this, what it's for, the more familiar with it I become. I know that sounds a bit ridiculous, but you end up looking at it from perspectives that you didn't really think about. The more thought you put into it, the more it's likely that you're going to see it from somebody else's perspective. And I didn't really expect that. I just thought, well, I know what it's all about, but we'll come to that. So there's a little bit here about what its intended audience is. I should probably just read it out for clarity. So A/B Split Test is a plugin created to make the job of split testing your website as simple as possible. The plugin works with Elementor, Beaver Builder, and the WordPress block editor and requires no technical expertise. And by that, I mean, you don't have to write any code. You need to be able to log into a WordPress install and install a plugin, but that's about it. The intended audience is WordPress agency owners. So I learned this from last week, who my intended audience is. In that I learned quite a few things, quite a few people who would be the audience, and then we distilled it last week into who'd be the best audience for us. Who are the people that we're gonna get the most impact with? And so this was them. The intended audience is WordPress agency owners as well as WordPress freelancers. In the former case, so that's the agency owners, it'll speed up their development work. And in the latter case, the freelancers, it might help them to make an add-on service. So it might be able to assist them getting like a revenue stream. And that all came from this, which was last week's work. And we decided that Justin, who is our agency owner, he was probably our favorite. And then James, who is the freelancer, he was our second favorite. And we thought that Lucy and Richard, whilst interesting people in our lives, would probably not get the best bang for your buck. Okay, so then the idea here then is to lay out different versions of the plugin going forward over time, and be able to set yourself little goals, because as it's called, the roadmap. Now, because I'm not writing the code and I'm doing it in collaboration with Tom Carlos, I had to speak to him about this document. So we got on the phone, well, not the phone, we got on Zoom yesterday, and he's moving house at the minute, so he's got quite a busy life. So this sort of has taken a little bit of a backseat. But we went through all of the things that we were planning to do on the next release. And we decided just to bundle them all up into one big release rather than try to sprinkle them out over the next 3 or 4 weeks. And so that version, we're on 1.06 at the minute, so that'll be 1.07. And the idea is to get it out by the end of this week. Fingers crossed. We'll see how that goes. And it primarily it's got a few nice new features. It's got quite a few bug fixes, and there's actually a few UI tweaks that we did based upon not actually customer feedback, but our own feedback of looking at it and thinking, this could do with a bit of an improvement. So the features that we're going to be adding are full page testing. That is to say, at the moment, the plugin allows you to specify bits of your page, like buttons. You might say, test this button against this button, or this header against this header, or even this menu against this menu. But now we're just going to offer the feature of just this page against this page. And, you'll set up a URL. That will be the prime URL that you drive traffic towards. And the plugin will then decide which of those is the best landing page. So you could tweak any part of that. We're also going to do a little bit of a UI tweak. And at the moment, if you are logged into the plugin and you've got 3 buttons as split test, they all show for you logged in. They don't show to the visitors, but they show to you. So we're going to make it so that they only show one at a time. In other words, you can say, show me the blue one, show me the red one, show me the green one, just to make the UI look more like what it would look like to a front-end user. We've also we've also decided that our demo install, because you can go to demo.absplittest.com and set up a demo site, and you need to enter an email. And we thought to ourselves, that's not a lot, but maybe that puts some people off. What if we could have it so that you didn't need to enter any information at all? So you could just hit a button and get a demo without telling us anything about you. Because I think there's a proportion of people for whom surrendering their email is too far, and they'll just back out at that point. And literally, we're not doing anything with those emails. So if they put their email in, the whole purpose of that was to send you a token so that you could log in. But we've got around that now, and if you click on the button, you just get logged in, and you're good to go. So maybe that'll work, maybe not. We'll see. At the moment, the UI for the plugin is in one column, and there's one big column that just goes all the way down. We're going to split that up into 2 columns so that it's easier to read the data. It's a slight thing, but it's pretty important, I think. We're also going to add the ability to add in just arbitrary notes. So if you at the moment, there's no place where you can just write your stuff. Everything is about what comes out on the end. But we thought it might be nice for, let's say there's maybe a team of people. Wouldn't it be nice to just write some random notes which appear nowhere? They don't do anything to the functionality. They just allow you to say, okay, this is for the homepage between these dates. And then anybody coming along could see that and maybe, add to it or what have you. Okay.
A team of the people, but one person. Right. You won't remember in a month what was your thinking when you were doing something.
Well, we thought at the outset, the name of the test would do it. So you give it a name, like homepage button test, but then that's just not enough, it turns out, because you really do need to say, okay, this is a test for the homepage in the header with the yellow on the green button, and we're going to run it between these dates. So we're adding that in. We've also committed to communicate everything that we do. So we've set up the change log, but now we're going to formulate a process whereby when there's a significant change, we're going to communicate that through email. So we've started to work out how those would look and what have you. And that's it. Actually, now that I read it back, that's quite a lot, I think.
That's
okay. Yeah. Well, as I was writing it, I was just thinking, well, that's only about 4 points. But now that I read it, and it took me 5 minutes to read it, just suddenly occurs to me that is quite a lot. Anyway, so there you go. That's what's happening. And the metric, the measure of success, I suppose, is simply did those things get ticked off the list? There's nothing weird or ephemeral there. It's just, did they get ticked off the list? And if not, we'll need to roll them over to this column, which read 1.0.8. And I haven't got a date for that yet.
Right.
But it occurs to me that I also should have done something. Now, I don't know how this got missed, but I was supposed to add something to this table here that we looked at last week. And I didn't know. I forgot. I'm naughty. I go and sit in the corner and bad Nathan. Do you want to put your screen up to show me what you did to the customer segments, to what I should have done, and I promised to do it by next week.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
I was just a quick thought.
Yeah.
There was a point there, like make a full page testing, and I was thinking it looks like a nice usage scenario, like test full page. And you'll see which page works better, and then test it step by step, each part of these. Like a nice point for documentation that we are going to discuss today.
Yes. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because you may like to. Now, my feeling with the whole split testing thing is once you've kind of figured out the layout of your site, you're not really going to throw it all away and try a radical new design and split test them against each other, because they're just too far apart. So the intention of the plugin at the beginning was to say, well, let's just take one little bit, that call to action or that whatever it is, and just test those against each other. And that's how it works. But it would appear that there seems to be a lot of people out there who are saying, could we have full page, because they're just used to that. That's a normal thing in a split testing plugin. Just test one URL against another URL, and we ourselves will take on the responsibility of just changing one thing in those two URLs. So, you know, it's just two ways of achieving the same thing. But yeah, we could. The thing is, you could. I won't get into it, but you can split test things within the split test if you want, which gets a bit ridiculous and pointless. But yeah, I think that's a good feature.
It's like endless split testing.
Yeah, because it never stops. And it's like it is. I think split testing could potentially be a bit like SEO, in that you never really arrive at a satisfactory answer. You're constantly fiddling and knowing which didn't work, but never knowing if the one that you've ended up with is actually the best possible one.
Situation when you're working on some landing page for months and you're crafting each bit of this and everything is like tested and proves to be a better version and so on, and after 6 months, for example, you just create a brand new landing page that beats the previous one.
Yeah. Just I'm fed up with looking at that one. Like, let's just do a different one. But that's the intention. Maybe by the end of the week. But as I said, Tom, who I'm working with on this, he's moving house literally tomorrow, and so it might not happen quite so easily. So we'll see how we go. But yeah, so it would appear that did you want to add anything more to that before I move away?
No, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, there was an extra additional column that I missed off. So this was our customer segments that we did last week, and we had who, position, and so on, all the way to question at the right. But I missed that there was supposed to be an extra column at the edge. Shall I put your screen up and you can show me what you did this week to add to that, which is something I'll have to do this week? Okay, you're on. Yours is showing.
Okay, cool. So there were some updates. Give me a second. So in previous episodes, we were talking about feedback, customer feedback, and collecting feedback and using it in testimonials and development map and so on. And I reached out to some people who left reviews on WordPress.org because I wanted to use their feedback on my site as testimonials. And I reached out to them, and they were so nice to give me the permission of using their feedback, of course, and also to give me some additional feedback. So we were able to find out 3 new bugs, but also what is like more important, I think, they described the way they're using my plugin, and I was able to update user scenarios. And also I added a new customer segment, which wasn't here before. So before I had James, who is freelance WordPress developer, right? And also I had Rich, who is WordPress agency owner. And I had Lucy, who is chief marketing officer at tech company. But now I have a brand new customer segment, and this is the blend of these 3. His name is Daniel. He's WordPress marketer.
Just to pause a minute, that's allowed then, is it? You're allowed to go back. I know this is a silly question, right? But you're encouraged to go back and add people in that you suddenly think, oh, I missed out Daniel and whatever he does. That's a good plan, just to keep going back. So that's not a finished document. That customer segments just is iterated upon the whole time, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Because I divided them in 3, and there are 3 segments, but there is another one which is kind of the combination of these 3. And this is like I have been talking with quite few people like Daniel, who are digital marketers in WordPress space. So I'm concluding that this is like this is another customer segment. So what he does, he optimizes conversion and does marketing for WordPress websites, and he does performance optimization not as a developer but as a marketer. So just to be clear, my plugin tests site speed and gives you results and sends you notifications if it's not good. So this guy, Daniel, he does performance optimization, not like developer does, but to improve conversions. And his tech level is not that high, but he knows that site speed is important, and he knows that it's important for conversions and for SEO, right? So I added this for him, but he has something mutual, like in common with James. How they might find out? He also may find out about my plugin from how to posts, how to so and so to speed up your website, and from WordPress community use, because he's a part of community too. But the question that that my plugin will be able to answer for him is not, does it need my attention as it was for James, but can I demonstrate good results to client?
Nice. Yeah. Yeah.
So this is something he is doing, but he will be passing the information to the client later. And the user scenario was to he's not installing on his own website, he's installing on client's website. Then he needs reports to be sent to his own email, not to client's email. And he wants it to work in the background. This is like in common with James. But then he wants to, when the important bit that I found out, that he is doing some tweaks to performance of the website, and he wants it to be retested. So he done something, for example, like set up lazy loading for pictures, and then he wants plugin to retest the same page to see how it changed. So this is what he is doing. He don't want to go to PageSpeed Insights or Chrome development tools to test each time, but it's this scenario where he tested site speed, then he did something like some tweaks, and then he retested it, and if the results are better than they were, he can show the results to client. So that's how I updated the user scenario.
Nice.
Yeah. But the purpose of this, my main homework for today was to figure out the feedback. I don't have landing page for my plugin yet, but I created a page on my website and I added a testimonial section there. Here it is.
Nice.
These testimonials, they are coming from WordPress.org. People left these reviews like a long time ago.
Are you allowed to say that you took these off WordPress.org? Because to me, linking back to that actual piece of real feedback. Do you remember last week or a couple of weeks ago we spoke about the fact that you could just make it up, right? But if you could link to the actual post, you've done it, have you? Nice.
Yeah, but now I'm thinking, when you said this, I was thinking, yeah, there is a link here with the stars, right? If you click here, you will go to WordPress.org page. But maybe should I just write here like the review is coming from WordPress.org? It will be like more solid.
I think so. I think you should absolutely do that. Yeah, that would be my gut reaction. Also, I would link the person's name and icon of them. Yeah, great. Yeah. No, I would do that. I'd say where it was, if it came off Trustpilot or if it came off WordPress.org, because nobody's going to be looking at your plugin or my plugin unless they've got, they all know the WordPress.org repo exists, right? Don't they? They must do. Yeah. So it's good. It's good because then they know it's probably, random and it's not necessarily something you made up.
Yeah. So I linked to the actual review and I linked to their preferred website. So I contacted these people to ask what is the better link to. And someone asked to link to Twitter, someone asked to link their personal website. And also, there is something not nice here. Okay.
Never mind.
Yeah. But also I think that was like not a bad decision to highlight why they think the plugin is good. So for example, here, like to receive warnings, like to highlight the benefits, to receive warnings in case your page loads too slow. Or cron for speed tests. It's kind of will be understandable for developers only, but it will be, right? Or keep an eye on top ranking pages of my website. Speed insight from multiple URLs on your website. And I added like this can be like testimonials, can be like selling points.
Yeah. I'm just looking at what we've got and whether they sort of hit the same. I like the fact that your testimonials are a bit larger, and I also like that you've bolded out the benefit, which we didn't do. Whereabouts on that page does it appear? Because we've put ours about 2/3 of the way down, and it looks like on your page it's more like 3/5 of the way down from your scroll bar. So both of us are kind of pushing them down a little bit. Be interesting to see if pushing them up higher or what have you, or putting them near the buy now button or something like that would make a difference.
I don't have any.
No, I know you. Yeah.
Of the landing page. Probably later I will tweak somehow this landing. We built it first and then tweak it somehow, and maybe maybe it's better to put them up. It's a usual usual order to put reviews down on the page, right? But if they're so good you want to share them, why not putting them up, right?
Yeah, indeed. It's amazing to me as well how often maybe it's just the fact that you and I are both heavily into WordPress and spend a lot of time in the community, how often I come across familiar faces in the testimonials for plugins. There seems to be some super users who are really keen to share their reviews and all of that, and then they feature on quite a lot. Paul Lacey comes to mind. His face appears on lots and lots of these plugin things because he's just so nice and sends loads of good feedback all the time.
Right. Maybe people just like his face.
Exactly. That's what it is.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I'm going to improve ours. We haven't got a star rating system because we're not on the .org repo. So we might have to come up with a way of doing that. I'm sure we could suck stars into a feedback form. And it just looks really nice. It just looks great when you see the 5 stars. But the highlighting of the benefits is good. Plus saying what they do. You know, you've got WordPress developer, digital marketer, web expert, and co-founder of. It just sort of shows that it's not just one audience. There's quite a few different audiences in there.
Yeah, right. That's what we discussed in the previous episode. To add reviews coming from outside of your website to prove that they're real, to add their picture, their name, and also add their position and what they do, so other people can relate to what they're
right.
Yeah, to what they're doing. And what else was there? Right. And to use stars, it was one of the points from the previous episode as well. It was Adrian Toby from Groundhog. It was to use stars because everyone understands them. So yeah, that's what I did.
And it kind of catches the eye as you're scrolling through. It kind of catches the eye, and it speaks only of testimonials, you know. And so if that is something that you're into, I have a good friend who, when he buys something, he's very careful to read all the testimonials, and he reads the background of the company and all of that. So it does impact. It's not like a small thing for some people. What other people have said, and if you can prove that they actually said it, hence your links to the repo, that makes a difference, right? If you can, yeah.
And if you see familiar faces, testimonials, it means a lot.
Yeah.
I can remember in some episodes of WP Builds, you were saying about the email subject. It doesn't really matter what the email subject is if you know the person who sent the email. It can be whatever subject in the world, like the subject can be any, but if you know the person who sent you an email, you will open it in any case.
Yeah, if my mother sends me an email, I have no interest in what the email subject is. But if a cold marketing campaign comes through and I don't recognize the name, then the subject line becomes like critical reading. It's it really is the sort of the wall through which they've got to push, the barrier through which they've got to get over before I'm even going to open it. Yeah, it's a good point. That is a good point.
If you know the sender, you don't care what they're writing in the subject. It can be whatever. And here, the same thing, I think. If I can see familiar faces, like, for example, joining a Facebook group, and I can see that there are a lot of people whom I know and whom I respect. They're already in this group. Of course, I do want to join.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, nice.
So the next thing. Okay. So I made kind of decision map, something for the feedback. So whenever I receive a new feedback, I'm testing these few questions. Is it a testimonial? If yes, if it is a testimonial, is it better than those that I already have? Because as we were talking in previous episode, you're not really supposed to add every new testimonial to your landing page, right? But it's better to substitute the ones that you have if new testimonial is better than you have. So when I receive a testimonial, is it better than those that I already have? If yes, I will update the existing testimonial, like replace. If no, then no. If
Okay.
it's a report, I will edit on GitHub. I already added 3 bugs there in the past week. It's for public tracking, and also if this bug, I'm gonna show you, if this bug has some temporary workaround, for example. One of the issues that I added was that so when you run tests, there is 5 minutes before each test can be rerun, like retested. Each page can be retested. But in some scenarios, this time limit isn't getting updated. So I added this as a bug that I'm going to fix in next release, but also I added a temporary workaround to fix it before I do it myself. So if someone else will reach out to me and tell me that they have this problem, I will just give them a link to GitHub, and that's
Yeah. Have you found GitHub to be user friendly for everybody that's been using it? So I mean, it is, right? But I just wondered, as a way of viewing it, how your audience has coped. When I first encountered it many years ago, I remember being a bit confused by the UI. And trying to figure out where everything is, and issues and all of that along the top, and even down to like, well, what's a pull request, even these kind of things. What is this? This all looks a bit technical. I'm getting out of here. Yeah.
I'm not a super experienced GitHub user, to be honest, and I still need to figure out the better way to use these. For example, even labels. Like the label says bug, right? But it actually doesn't say a lot. There is no there are different kinds of bugs. You should also set like a priority, or maybe the intended release name or number there, or something like this. I will figure out, I think, as I go.
Yeah.
But I know that some companies use GitHub to plan, to make a real plan for development, but I didn't find it really like handy for me. So I still use my Google spreadsheet for this. I find it like the most convenient tool for myself. It's just then the group, then hours. Sometimes I will put in the hours if it's something long that I think it will take a long time to do. Then priority and release. And for releases, I use not only numbers, but also use words. Soon, maybe, someday.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, for myself, I know what they mean. Soon, it means that this should be done, but sometime soon. Someday, it's nice to get done, but I don't really think so. And maybe it's I don't really think so at all.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
there is some point, but no. And also, I have a comment section there. Yeah, so I can leave comments for myself. No
I
one actually.
wonder if in the future, if it were to grow and you do get your 10,000 installs and what have you, I wonder if the necessity to be public about priority would become important. In other words, no, this is definitely what we're doing next, and this is really not going to happen this year. It's really sinking low. There's only one person mentioned it, but 58 people have mentioned this one, so we'll do that one first. And I think public roadmaps can be really useful. I mentioned last week the tool that we're using, the WordPress plugin, which is you get gathering in the feedback and it automatically creates a roadmap for you. So in that sense, it's quite nice, but it doesn't have that. You don't get all the different options that you've just customized in there yourself. We just get it's much more basic in term, but it's good public facing presentation, but there's not the level of personal detail that you've added.
Yeah, and also you would like to filter everything that you put on public roadmap, because no one really wants to go through all your brain activity when you just make notes or something. Yeah, I think there is a good point of having public roadmap when you have people waiting for some release, like some bug fix or new feature or something, and maybe at some point I will need it, but not right now.
No, you know what? You make a good point though, because I think we've seen all of these. So Tom and I, we've seen all of these things out in the wild in plugins. So when we decided to do this, we just talked about all the we should do this, right? And probably it's not necessary yet. And I think your approach is the right one, especially if it's just yourself and you're trying to go from nothing to something. You just put together whatever will work with the tools that you know and the tools that you're familiar with, and then worry about that problem when it's actually a problem. So a roadmap is needed when people are asking for a roadmap, not necessarily before they need it. So we probably did that one the wrong way around, but you never know. We'll see.
We'll see how it works. Yeah, maybe that's from different side. When you give, for example, I didn't have any contact form on my website for a long time. Like, I was thinking like everyone can click a button and write an email to me, right? But once I added a contact form, suddenly people started to fill it in and contact me.
There's a reason why they exist. That's definitely true.
Yeah. So maybe like having this public roadmap will give you like some benefits that you are not able to get without it.
Yeah. Okay.
So what next? That's my homework. Give me a second.
It's okay.
Oh, okay. And is it a feature idea? If it's a feature idea, I can add it to development plan that I showed before as well, and mark it with some soon, someday, maybe, or skip note, right? And also, if the feedback that I receive gives me some new information about user scenario, I will go and update user scenarios.
Right.
I did.
So the idea being that if somebody gives you some feedback which clearly indicated that there was a new type of person that you hadn't thought about before who was using your plugin for a totally different use, you go and add them in and see how they weigh up in the plan. Okay.
Yeah, right. Or if it gives more detail to an existent one that so each time when I receive a feedback now, I know what questions I should ask myself about this feedback and what I should do with it. I think it's like handy to have, not to think every time, okay, what should I do with this?
Right.
Where do I put that? Yeah.
Right.
Also, there was a picture here. There was a picture showing that I scheduled once in 2 weeks. I scheduled the event in Google Calendar to.
Oh, I did. I saw that. Yeah, I saw you put a calendar event. Yeah, I don't know where that's gone, but it was there.
I scheduled that every 2 weeks on Friday, I think. On Friday morning, I have scheduled event that I will review my roadmap for plugin, even if nothing happened during the previous 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, if I haven't done any release or code improvements or anything, I will review these because something definitely changed in 2 weeks. Maybe I received one single feedback that changed things, maybe maybe something else updated, just to keep it updated. So every 2 weeks.
I have something similar, but it's an onboarding thing, which we haven't really covered. But I go and check each week if anybody's bought it, and if they've bought it, I make them a video. I think we talked about that. And so that it's a similar approach. I'm not really looking at the roadmap, but every week I go and check a particular aspect just to see how that's ticking over. I think that's quite a nice idea, right? Just force yourself once a week for 10 minutes just to go and re-examine something that, just put the email down for a few minutes and do that instead. Yeah, it's a good idea.
Right. And the last bit of my homework was, here is the picture. Okay, and the last part was to update the plan and the roadmap, which I already did. So I planned some stuff for the next release based on feedback that I received, and there are quite a few things. And I also pointed, just like you did, I pointed the goal there of the release. So my next release. The goal for my next release is, give me a second, how do I, okay. So the goal for my next release that I hope will happen in next 2 weeks is to fix three main bugs that we identified, and also to have homepage added to the test automatically after the plugin is activated.
Okay.
So it's like one feature and 3 bugs. That's my goal. If I will accomplish this, I will be happy.
And is that during this week or?
I think it's before 23rd of
Okay.
July.
So it's another. You got yourself another couple of weeks or so. That's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was it about
Good.
my and we don't have a lot of time left. I'm afraid.
It's okay. We were gonna spread this topic over to next week anyway. So we'll give the documentation thing 15 minutes of our very best, and then we'll stop. We'll stop in 15 minutes because I've got to go off somewhere. So that's fine. Let's crack on with that then.
We can just make a quick introduction to our next topic, which is documentation. So yeah, you mentioned that you feel like it's a boring thing to do.
Yeah, what I mean by that is I'm so used to doing content recently like this, making videos and making audio. I've become really de-skilled in writing, I think, and also sort of technical writing. The writing that I do for blogs and so on and so forth, it just kind of comes out. I don't have to really think about a process; it just comes out. And so what I've noticed with this is I kind of made myself promises about what I was going to do at the beginning in terms of documentation. And I think, in all honesty, the whole lockdown situation didn't really help. But I did find myself getting really distracted whilst writing documentation, which kind of led me to believe that I wasn't that interested in doing it. So that's what I mean by it's boring. It's really important, but it kind of somehow felt that I wasn't just getting round to it. And the reason was, I think I was setting the bar too high. I decided I was going to make videos for everything. And those videos were going to be like quite good, like have an intro and an outro and do all the whole zoom in when the mouse clicks and pans across and everything fades out except the little circle and all of that stuff. And then figured out quite quickly that that's fine, but it takes ages. And so I got a bit disinterested in that. And then a little bit later, I got quite into figuring out what's the best way to do it, screen capture tools and all that, and just writing it out. And that was a little bit more easy, but I've still sort of dropped off the wagon. The idea was to create a few pieces each week, and I just haven't kept up with that. What's your experience? Do you enjoy doing it, or do you find it a bit of a chore? Or
the same thing. I kind of that it should be done at some point, but I was thinking to myself, like, SpeedGuard is such a simple tool. What I will be writing about, it's so It's so like it's really simple tool. You just install it, activate it, and add pages that you want to test, and it tests your pages, what I will be writing about. So to me, it seems like there is nothing exciting to write about, and I just never did anything like this. But then something happened. I saw I saw on internet something about the screwdriver.
You can. I've shared your screen again. Do you want to show that, because it's quite?
Can you bring me back, please?
Yeah. There you go.
So I saw something about screwdriver. Okay. So it's kind of simple tool ever. Everyone can figure out how to use it, right? But do you know why a lot of screwdrivers have ripped handles?
Oh, I was going to just say to create friction to make it better to hold.
Better to hold, right? You know,
Yeah.
you have like tight screws or bolts, you're trying to push really hard, but it doesn't work. So, and a lot of screwdrivers, they have
Spanner on it.
to make these. I'm showing the smaller one. So
Yep.
you take your screwdriver and you put a wrench on it.
Yeah.
And you make a leverage, and it goes really easily, you know. But not many people know about that. This is supposed to go with this, and you can do this really easily. And I saw that on the internet, and I was thinking, what can be more simple, more easy to use than screwdriver? Obviously, any plugin, no matter how simple it is, it's a little bit complicated than screwdriver, right?
Yes. Yes.
So if there are some like not unknown ways to use screwdriver, maybe there are some ways to use plugin too.
Yes.
While I was thinking this, I received this feedback last week, and it occurred to me that maybe it's not about like how to use our plugin. The documentation is not about how to use our plugin, but it's about what you can use it for, you know. So
Yeah, I do know the difference. Although it maybe does need explaining, doesn't it? Because it's that we faced this exact same quandary a few weeks ago. It was just, you set out with how to do, like how to install it. What does it do? Give a demo of exactly what you think everybody will use it for, and then you finished. There's no more documentation needed because you've covered it. And then of course people ask for just quirky things that you didn't expect. And then that's where we're going with our documentation. The idea is that we're going to write posts when somebody comes to us and says, can it do this? How does it do this? Is it possible? Then we'll say yes or no, whatever. And if it is possible, we'll just add it into the knowledge base as a thing.
Right. And it's like it's more like more interesting even to read this kind of documentation where you read not how to use the specific tool,
Right.
accomplish your goals with that tool. Just as a quick example, I want to share the course by Hrefs Academy. Give me a
Do you want me
second.
to put your screen up? Oh, there we go.
So it's a service for SEO, for keywords collection and stuff. And the founder and chief marketing officer, they happen to come from Ukraine, and chief marketing officer, he is coming from this same small town as I am. And they do like fantastic things with their content marketing. Like, I think like it's super cool what they do. So they do courses where they describe how to bring traffic to your website, how to build content strategy, how to plan your content and stuff. But you see, so this is called what's called blogging for business. So they have lessons here. Everything like is spread by categories. It's everything to listen and to watch it. But during all this course, you're kind of learning how to build your content marketing strategy. But during the course, you are learning how to use their tool.
Yes. Yes.
Like, for example, they're showing something like how to generate keyword ideas using keyword research tools, and they will mention other tools as well. They will mention their tool and other tools as well, but like they will give more time for their tool and show their, like in this very video of the course, they will show advantages of using their product instead of some others. And even if you are not using their product and you're watching this course, you are getting a lot of knowledge about how to make this content marketing strategy, even if you are not using the product.
Yeah.
And this is kind of, I think this is great. You give, like, you answer the question that comes before the question, how do I use your product? Before I'm asking how do I use this specific product, I'm asking how
Right. Yeah.
solve this problem. So this is the first question: how do I solve this problem? And then maybe it will be, how do I use your product to solve this problem? So
Right.
there is point in your documentation. Maybe there is a point answering this previous question: how do I solve this problem? And
Yeah, it's almost like an SEO type strategy, isn't it? You know, there's people out there online looking for, well, in our case, let's say it's split testing or A/B testing or what have you, and maybe they're even talking about something completely outside of WordPress. You know, how do I do split testing on a website? And if you've written good articles, it feels more. Does it feel more to you like a blog than a documentation knowledge base? It feels like something they ought to be separate, but maybe not.
right, that's exactly what I wanted to discuss in the next episode, using documentation in content marketing strategy. So how do we divide what goes to blog and what
Yeah.
goes to documentation? But a lot of things, like a lot of things can go into documentation. I can I can hardly imagine myself like reading the documentation that shows like do click this button and that button. But sometimes when I'm looking for some answers for the previous questions, I will just spend hours on some website answering the previous question in their documentation, because it answers the more more generic question.
Yes.
And you
Yes.
spend time there in their documentation, and you learn about the ways of using their product. And it's after some time their product seems so nice, you kind of, if you have that problem and you can see that product solves your problem, it's
Yeah.
kind of solved.
The I think the sort of SEO aspect of it is not to be sort of pushed to one side, isn't it? It is really powerful. You know, there's so many stories of people who've spent a long time creating just engaging, interesting content of how to type content that maybe mentions their product, maybe doesn't, but just adds authority to them as a source. You know, and eventually that domain becomes the place to go for that type of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it comes back to the problem of having the time and the desire to do it, doesn't it? And whether you've got because I'm imagining that your skills, you would like to deploy your skills into improving the plugin, right? You want to do the code and push out the updates and add the features as they come back. And it's a difficult path to tread, isn't it? Knowing how much time this week goes on to blog writing or documentation and how much goes on to fixing the bugs. And I'm guessing, I could be completely wrong, but I'm guessing somewhere within you is a pull towards the code and not towards the documentation, possibly. If you're anything like me, you like to do the technical stuff, not the sort of like the prose type things, the documentation type things.
I like both sides.
Oh, good.
But I found out, like, we have our time running out now.
When we do, yeah.
But I think I will mention this: the reason why to do documentation, why to work on, why to dedicate your time to this at all. I will describe what I think in the next episode. But one
Sure.
of the important things that that I was thinking of is that I was always thinking the documentation is for existing users.
Right,
So
right. Yeah.
first of all, I don't have a lot of existing users for now, right? And also, it's a free plugin. Like no one pays me for that, right? So I would probably work on development or on or work on pro version instead of working on documentation.
Right.
But then when I was preparing to this episode, I figured out that documentation can be the point of acquiring users. It can bring new,
Yeah.
not existing.
Yeah. I
Bring
can't remember the exact words you just used, but you made it abundantly clear. A few sentences ago, you spelled it out really, really well. You know, if you don't have too many users, there's probably not a lot of need for the documentation because nobody's needing it. So having other things which get people to be customers, which then creates the need for documentation. It's kind of like a bit of a circle, isn't it? At some point, you've got to just throw yourself in the circle and keep up with it. You know, get new users, write documentation, write SEO, get new users, you know, so it goes. Yeah, so let's talk about that next week. I'm really sorry to say that I've got to run because I've got events that I must attend to. So we'll cover documentation next week. Is that right? Yeah. We won't set any homework up this week on the live anyway. Maybe we'll chat later on and set some homework up privately. But thank you. Sorry to cut it so short. I know that I know that there's probably masses more to say. We spend quite a long time looking at the homework. Maybe our homework is not to spend so long on the homework in the live and just get stuck into the topic. But we'll take that next week. Right. Let's put that up. Thank you, Sabrina.
Thank you, Nathan.
Yeah, you're very welcome. We'll see you guys next week. Take care, everybody. Bye. Bye.